In this video, I'm going to show you the 5-step path to become a cloud architect in 2026. Now, I know this process works because I have spent 26 years as an architect, many of them as a chief architect, and I have helped many people get their first architect jobs at companies like AWS or Microsoft or Cisco or Google or IBM or Accenture, Deloitte, KPMG, and many other organizations. So the first step of being a cloud architect in 2026 is to learn the right cloud architect skills. Now, many people make the mistake of only learning technical skills for the architect job. Unfortunately, technical skills alone are not enough. Now, there's going to be 4 sets of skills you need as an architect, and they are going to be technical skills, they are going to be business skills, they're going to be communication skills and executive skills, and we'll talk about why. But you absolutely need credibility, and you will need to understand compute, storage, networking, security, data architectures, application architectures, but it's just not enough. And here's the reason why. Cloud architecture is not cloud engineering. They're very different roles. And see, a cloud engineer is a very technical role. The cloud engineer is implementing the strategy. But we cloud architects are designing that strategy. So while the cloud engineer will be building or configuring or deploying or even troubleshooting a system, what we do as cloud architects is very different. We're going to decide on what should be built, why it should be built, and how whatever we're going to design is going to support the business. So as architects, we're going to decide what risks we need to reduce, what trade-offs the business can accept, and how the design will evolve over time, while that cloud engineer will need to be an expert on how do I deploy that virtual network like a VNet or a VPC. But while that cloud engineer is deploying that VNet, we cloud architects are looking at the network architecture strategy. And we're going to be looking at the network architecture to see if it supports security, to see if it supports the compliance we need, how our network architecture will affect cost or performance, what are the trade-offs in our architectural approach. And that's the big difference. Cloud engineers are builders, and we're sort of lucky to have them, but we cloud architects are advisors. We're advising business leaders on architectures that will help their business succeed. So while the engineers are purely focused on the tech, we are evaluating trade-offs across risk, across cost, across performance, across security, operations, and even business priorities. And that's why you need to learn more than cloud services. You must learn how the business works, you must learn how executives think, and you must learn how to communicate clearly. Because the better you are at your business skills, your communication skills and executive skills, the more valuable you become in the architect world. And in most cases, that means more promotions and a higher pay as well. So yes, get deep in the cloud. Dive deep in the cloud. But don't stop. Learn architecture as well. Learn business, learn communication, learn leadership, and learn to act like a trusted advisor. Now, if you want the full list of cloud architect skills, download the free How to Become a Cloud Architect guide in the description of this video, and it'll give you a full set of cloud architect skills. Now let's move on to step 2, because skills are just not enough to become a cloud architect. You also have to become the kind of candidate that hiring managers want to hire. So hiring managers do not just hire skills. Hiring managers hire trust, confidence, people with good communication skills, and good judgment. And this is especially true for an architect, because we cloud architects one day will be working with engineers, another day it's going to be a developer, then it'll be a security team, a finance team, an operation team, a vendor, and executives as well. And that means managers have to ask themselves several questions when they evaluate you. The manager is going to say, can this person communicate clearly? Do they think clearly, and can they explain complex ideas clearly? Because that's most of our job. They'll be asking this question, can you evaluate trade-offs, make a good decision, and work under pressure? See, management needs to know that you can be trusted in front of executives, customers, and senior technical leaders. And that's why being technically strong is not enough. You also have to become desirable to hiring managers. And that starts with showing the attributes those hiring managers want in every interaction, the ones we just talked about. So in your resume, in your LinkedIn profile, in your portfolio, it all should show you've got those attributes. It even should be in every social media post you create. Every conversation with recruiters you have, show that your communication can help people think that you're credible, that you're professional, and that you truly understand architecture and the business. And when the hiring manager sees that, they know you can lead, they know you'll be seen as a trusted advisor, and they know you can operate at the architect level. And that's the goal. You're not trying to show that hiring manager when it gets to your interviews or any of your communication that you just know cloud services. You're proving that you can operate as a cloud architect. That's going to bring us to step 3. Because if you want hiring managers to believe you can do the job, you're going to need proof. And your portfolio is the evidence that you can actually do the job. Now let's talk about building a real-world cloud architect portfolio. Unfortunately, here's where many candidates lose the job. They say they can be an architect, but they bring no proof. They have certifications, labs, technical knowledge, and even technical projects, but there's no proof that they can actually be an architect. And that's a problem. Because while if your portfolio shows you can do a lab, it may show you can follow instructions, but it does not show that you can think like an architect. So we need to build a real cloud architect portfolio. And here's what it should look like. Your portfolio should have all the things that architects actually do in their job. All the architecture work projects that an architect would create in the course of their job is exactly what belongs in your portfolio. So your portfolio should prove that you can design an architecture, explain it, justify it, and even communicate your decisions to the senior leadership. So what belongs in your portfolio? Well, your portfolio should include cloud strategy artifacts. For example, target architecture diagrams, migration roadmaps, cloud landing zone designs, maybe some reference architecture patterns, or some cost optimization plans, or some architecture decision records, or executive presentations, or an RFP response. See, these are the kind of things that we architects do in our job, and a portfolio full of these will show you're a great architect, that you have the skills to do the actual job. And the key here is that strong real-world architect portfolio is going to show the hiring manager the biggest question that's in their mind. They're asking themselves, can you do the work? And when your portfolio is strong, the hiring manager doesn't have to guess. They already see how you think, communicate, and make decisions, and they've seen proof that you can do the job and you can do it well. So don't treat your portfolio like an afterthought. Put time in it, effort into it, and love and care into it. Make your portfolio clear, professional, and business focused. Keep it architecture focused, because portfolio is your proof that you're a real cloud architect. Now, that you can do the work of a cloud architect, the next question is whether the world will see you as a cloud architect. So that brings us into packaging you with the proper certifications, the right resume, the right LinkedIn profile. And let's begin with certifications. Certifications can be highly beneficial in that they can help you get through filters, they can attract recruiters, ultimately getting you more interviews. And certifications will also support your credibility, which is a very good thing. But certifications do not replace architecture skills, business acumen, communication, executive presence, or your portfolio. And that's why we did these first before we got to the certifications. So we're going to have to be very strategic here. Now, when it comes to some certifications, they are highly respected by the managers and they tend to drive strong amounts of interviews. And there are other certifications out there that hiring managers see and say, so what? So for cloud architects, we want to be careful to get the right certifications that are going to drive your interviews, because the certifications are not going to teach you how to be an architect. So for cloud architects, here's an example of strong certifications. And this is what we use with our students. And it seems to be very helpful in getting them a lot of interviews. And we teach these to our students. For a cloud architect, the first thing we want is one strong cloud certification. And that can either be the AWS Solutions Architect Professional, the Azure Solutions Architect Expert, or the Google Professional Cloud Architect. We really only want one of them, because it's the point to show that you're familiar with cloud computing and it looks good to get you that interview. Now, the second certification we like for cloud architects that we teach to our students is TOGAF 10. Now, TOGAF 10 is an architecture framework that's designed for digital transformation, and all architects' job is really digital transformation. So we love TOGAF 10 because it'll enhance the number of interviews you actually get. Now, even though people see the CISSP as a security certification, I teach this to all my cloud architects because security is critical in any cloud architecture. And I found when I teach the CISSP to my cloud architects and they hold, say, a Google Professional Cloud Architect and a TOGAF 10, they get a lot of interviews, which we love. So keep that in mind. We're not talking about collecting every certification on earth. I don't want you wasting your time collecting random certifications that do not support your target role, because 20 certifications in 20 other people's career does not make you look like an expert in your career. Your goal is to be a great architect, not a certification collector. So understand the reason we pick the certifications we do that we're recommending is they support your positioning and branding as an architect. Now let's talk about your resume. Sadly, most people submit a resume for an architect job that looks like an engineering job and they just get rejected and they get no interviews. Now your resume has one job. Your job is to get you the interview. That's it. Your resume is not an autobiography. It is not a list of everything you have done. It is a positioning document. It's an advertisement about you. And for a cloud architect, your resume is going to have to pass the 5-second resume test. And that means that in the first 5 seconds, the hiring manager should know 3 things about you. What role you want, why you are credible for that architectural role, and what business value you can deliver. And if the manager looks at that and can't figure it out in the first 5 seconds, resume is tossed and they go to the new client. So your resume has to position you for the job you want. Maybe you've been a cloud engineer for 10 years. Wonderful. But you need to translate those engineering skills into things that look more architecture friendly. So because your resume has to be for the job you want, not the job you have. And that means you need to highlight anything related to architecture on your resume. So if you've done some design work, it belongs on your resume. If you've done some strategy work, it belongs on your resume. Any kind of cloud migration or migration plans, it belongs on your resume. If you've done any stakeholder management, it belongs on your architect resume. If you've done any security work or cost optimization work, it really belongs on your resume. If you've done anything with governance or business outcomes, you want to pull that on your resume to show that you're a real architect. Don't just list what you worked on. Show what improved because of your work. See, we architects are hired for how our decisions will impact the business. So show the impact of your work. Maybe it was lower costs. Maybe it was better scalability, whether it was better business resilience or reduced risk or faster delivery. Talk about what the benefits were of your work. Now, one more important point. Your interview is going to be based upon what's on your resume. So I don't recommend putting anything on your resume you can't explain. So if you list a technology on your resume, be ready to explain it. If you list a project on your resume, be ready to explain it. If you list an outcome on your resume, be ready to defend it. If you list architecture experience, be ready to walk through the decisions and trade-offs. Now let's talk about LinkedIn. When you want a cloud architect job, LinkedIn is one of your most powerful tools. Recruiters search LinkedIn every day. The statistics are like 94.7% of recruiters are looking on LinkedIn every day. Hiring managers are searching LinkedIn to find qualified people to hire. Professional networks form on LinkedIn. Opportunities start on LinkedIn. So your LinkedIn profile needs to be laser focused on your architect career. It can't make you look like a generic technologist. Your headline should be clear. Your about section should be very compelling about what you can do as an architect for the business. Your experience should show architecture-related impact. Your featured section should include your portfolio or content or relevant work that you've done as an architect. And all your posts should demonstrate architecture thinking and how you think as an architect. Now, don't post generic AI slop that is created by AI that's got no voice like everyone else. Nobody reads that. Post real content, real architecture thinking, talk about cloud strategy or trade-offs or cost optimization, or discuss security, resilience, or migration planning, or governance. Talk about business outcomes, because when you start to create content around that, you start to become visible as an architect, because that's what we do as architects. And then when recruiters and hiring managers see your profile and some of the content, they start to say and think seriously, this person's a real architect. They're serious. Now, we're going to get to the final step. You've got the skills. You have the positioning. You have the proof. You've got the resume. You've got the LinkedIn profile. Now let's talk about winning the interview. And the interview is not where you recite cloud facts. The interview is where you prove that you are a cloud architect. So let's talk about winning the cloud architect interview. The interview is going to be where you stop being a resume and hopefully start acting like a trusted advisor. And this is where many technical people struggle. Not because they're not smart, because they're incredibly smart. Not because they don't have knowledge on technology. They have great knowledge on technology. But you can't answer like an engineer on an architect interview. See, a cloud architect interview is not a technical quiz just about the technology. Yes, you will be asked technical questions, but what you really, and yes, you will need to understand, say, cloud platforms and understand networking, compute, storage, security, identity, all of it. You will need to know that. But the best architect candidates don't give a technical engineering answer. The best architect candidates explain decisions, they explain business impact, and they explain trade-offs. A great architect will be able to explain, we have these three options. This is the option that we recommend and why. That great architect on their interview is going to communicate very clearly. They're going to show some executive presence. They're going to build trust and judgment. So architecture interviews are different than engineering interviews. They are very executive type interviews. So I like to call it like the trusted advisor interview approach. And I want you to answer questions like a trusted advisor, like an executive, because you are applying for an executive role. So when you're going to answer something, structure your responses like this. What was the situation? What was the business goal that you found when you got there? What options were considered? When you looked at various options, what trade-offs mattered? What recommendations did you make? And what was the outcome of your work? Because that structure is how architects communicate. For example, if someone asks you about a cloud migration, don't just say, I migrated servers to AWS, because that sounds like implementation, which is an engineer's job. Instead, I want you to communicate it like an architect and show your architecture thinking. You might say instead, for example, that the business was being constrained by data center limitations that were slowing growth, increasing risk, and making it harder for the company to scale efficiently. Now, we looked for multiple options to remedy those situations. But because the company needed both near-term speed and long-term business flexibility, we recommended a phased cloud migration strategy. What we did is we started with lowest risk workloads to build a little momentum around the cloud and prove the operating model. While we were working with those low-risk workloads, we established a strong cloud foundation, including identity, security, monitoring, and even cost controls. And that gave the business a controlled path to reduce the data center dependency, improve scalability, and meet all future growth demands. See, that's showing you as an architect. Because in this manner, you're showing your business context, your understanding of the options, and your ability to evaluate various options. You're showing governance and decision-making and leadership. And that's really critical. Now, a few important interview tips. One of the most critical things you need to do in an interview is establish rapport early. In fact, if you can't establish rapport within the first 8 seconds, the interview's actually over. So you're going to want to actually establish rapport quickly. In those first few seconds, be warm, be professional, and easy to speak with. Your goal is to build trust because people hire people they can trust. Now, if we're talking about trust, on the interview, never pretend to know something that you just don't. A hiring manager can tell what you know and what you don't know. And if you act like you know something that you don't, it will just destroy the trust like that. And then the interview is over. So if you don't know something in your interview, that's okay. Just say it professionally. Just say, I've not had the opportunity to learn whatever this thing is. Tell them that you're highly energetic, you learn fast, and you'll do whatever it takes to learn it if it's important to them or the role. Then tell them exactly where your expertise lies. Because that's going to reinforce what you want. It's also going to show that you're trustworthy, and it's also going to show that you're motivated for the job. It's also going to point the hiring manager to talk to you about your areas of expertise where you're going to represent yourself well. And that kind of answer is honest. It shows confidence. It shows self-awareness, which is critical. And that's really the key. So don't answer every question like a technician. Answer like an architect. Always talk about decisions, outcomes, risk. Always talk about the impact of security or scalability. Discuss stakeholders or trade-offs, because that's what we're hired to do as architects. So prove it on your interview. And if you'd like more help with Cloud Architect interviews, I've got a free guide on winning the interview in the description of this video. So go sign up for it and it'll be emailed to you. I also have a YouTube playlist full of Cloud Architect questions and answers. And if you're curious about other architecture roles like enterprise architects or security architects, I've got lots of playlists for them as well. So to recap, here's how you get hired as a cloud architect in 2026. Step 1, learn the right cloud architect skills. Learn the technical skills, but also learn the business skills, communication skills, and executive skills. Step 2, become what the hiring manager wants, because hiring managers hire people they want, and hiring managers hire people they trust. So show that you are credible, professional, strategic, clear, and capable of working with stakeholders. Step 3, build a real-world cloud architect portfolio. Do not just show labs. Show architecture work projects like cloud strategies, target architectures, migration roadmaps, RFP responses, security designs, cost plans, risk analysis, even executive presentations. Step 4, package yourself correctly. Use certifications to support your credibility. Build a resume that passes that 5-second resume test that I talked about. Create a LinkedIn profile that positions you for your cloud architect job. And build the personal and professional brand that shows off your architecture thinking. Step 5, win the interview. Interview like an architect, not an engineer. Make sure you show them on that interview that you can act and function as a trusted advisor. Explain trade-offs, explain your decisions, explain business outcomes, risk, and strategy, and that's how you're going to do that. And this is how you become a strong cloud architect candidate. Now, you know the path. The question is what you're going to do next. I hope you follow the right path. Now, if you're serious about becoming a cloud architect, an enterprise architect, a security architect, or an AI architect, I invite you to join my next free live architecture webinar. In this video, we gave you a roadmap. In our architecture webinars, we will go deep. I will show how to build the right skills, how to establish credibility. We'll dive deeper into your portfolios, your resume, LinkedIn, and everything on these webinars. And because these webinars are live on Zoom and they're free, you can ask your questions live and get answers live. So if you're tired of being seen as the person who configures systems, fixes problems, or implements someone's design, it's time to start positioning yourself as an architect. Register for the next free architecture webinar by using the link in the description of this video. And if you want the free Cloud Architect Career Guide or the free Cloud Architect Interview Guide, those links are in the description well. I'll look forward to seeing you in the next session.